Welcome, one and all, to the August 13th, Friday the 13th, here episode of the Signals from Mars live stream. I am joined by Mr. Brad Dahl. It is the Revenge of Yarg, since
The son of Yarg,
son of Yarg.
return of the son of Yarg. Yeah, Yarg Metal.
There you go. So,
Yarg. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So,
All
I
things
saw that
Yarg.
you had a nice post there. You referenced Clorox,
Yeah.
which is funny because I had a conversation about 2 hours ago regarding Clorox and chlorine in pools. So the first thing that came to mind was he's going to die, but not from that.
Man. You'd be surprised how many calls I get about people when they're dealing with pool chemicals. And because of that, I'm super, it's like I am with rattlesnakes. I'm super careful because I'm not, if I ever get bit by a rattlesnake, I'll never hear the end of it. If I ever get pool chemicals in my eye, I'll never hear the end of it. So yeah, I always check the wind, make sure I'm not standing downwind, and make sure I'm not pouring stuff, powder above my head. And it's unbelievable how these things happen. So hey, Jeremy, how you doing? Good to see
Jeremy,
Jeremy this week.
nice to see you in the chat. I hope you're doing well. I, as a kid, so I've always been lucky that we've always had a pool. We had an above ground pool up until I was 12, and we moved to a new house. And then a year after moving there, we got an in-ground pool. And I forget how old I was or whatnot, but I ended up getting chemical burns on my hand from the basic. It's not a basic acid. It's either a basic or an acid. It was a basic chemical that was used to clean the pool. And of course, I was, I don't know, like 18 or 19 or maybe in my early 20s. And my skin went completely white. And I was freaking out. And my mother was like, it's nothing. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, what if this, what if.
It's like I'm turning into Michael Jackson.
Right. Well, turning into a snowman, I thought. And then all of a sudden, we went to the urgent care, and the guy's like, yeah, it's just chemical burn. In a few days, your skin will turn back to normal. Like, okay, thank you.
It's just a chemical burn.
Yes.
Guy. Yeah, I had a few of those last night too. Yeah, so I'm going to tell you why I mentioned Clorox in my tweet about sharing this. But first of all, I do have to say we have a special guest here on the podcast. So if you hear some noise in the background,
it is Molly.
Yeah, it's Molly, the metal dog. And no, she's not dead. She just that's the way she rolls. So yeah, her. Yeah, mom's not here today. I'm in charge of everything at the house today. So yeah, be scared. Be very scared. So back to the bleach thing. I know we talked about bleach for a moment last time, and I'm like, how did I miss like the greatest bleach story ever?
Right.
So I answer the phone. This is Brad. Can I help you? Because that's the way I answer the phone.
Right.
And this woman says, so I was bleaching my rectum. Okay. True story. That's exactly how the call started. I was bleaching my rectum. So I'm like, okay, I kind of got an idea where this is going. But I was wrong. I was so wrong. Because we've had so many enema calls that have gone bad. And so that's where I thought it was going. But she goes, but no. I was bleaching my rectum, and I had the bleach in a glass, and my 2-year-old drank it. So I'm like, why did you even? I mean, I believe me, I'm really happy that you told me you're bleaching your rectum, but it really wasn't even like important to the whole story. It's like, why don't you lead with my kid drank bleach? Okay. But then that started a whole deep dive about bleaching your butthole. which of course my colleague was saying, I don't think she really understands what her rectum is.
Uh,
So yeah,
okay.
we had a visiting doctor at the time, a medical doctor, and so they got on their laptop and they Googled bleaching your anus
Right.
and came up with some very graphic pictures, and like, holy crap, this is a thing.
Yeah.
People actually do this. Yeah,
I re-
yeah.
I
Go ahead.
remember listening to Howard Stern years ago, and it may have been Jenna Jameson, maybe, or some other porn star who talked about the fact that porn stars were bleaching their anus because the skin was darker than the rest of their body. So they wanted to even out the color of their skin. And I remember hearing that and thinking, isn't there some type of makeup or something, or maybe someone needs to develop some like rectum cover up or
Anal rouge.
there you go. Or I'm thinking if somebody's tuning in to watch that type of a film, I don't think they don't care about the color of the skin of your butthole. Okay.
You'd be surprised. So yeah, so
Yes.
immediately after the call, I'm like, okay, is this a real thing or not? So I immediately texted my buddy Brian Beller, who's a bass player to the Stars,
Right.
plays
Death
currently
clock.
with Death Clock. Well, he played with Death Clock. He now plays mostly with God, what's his name? Joe Satriani. Joe Satriani.
Oh,
That's
okay.
who's getting ready to go on tour. He has his own band, Aristocrats, great band, by the way.
Oh,
And so
okay. Yeah, yeah.
he lives in LA. He's actually from New Jersey, so he's of the family. And so I immediately texted him and I said, "So is this a thing down there?" And he's like, "Oh, hell yeah, yeah. A lot of people are bleaching their buttholes here." So there
Yeah.
you go.
Well,
I think
that's
we got this episode off to a roaring start. What do you think?
that's the epicenter of the porn industry. So yeah, that makes sense. He's wow. So a lot of people to say hello to in the chat today.
Yeah,
We said hello to Jeremy, Rob Rowe. We have Steve Hoker. We have Mike Jones joining us. Hello, Mike. Looks like you stopped him from bleaching his butthole tonight. He was about to do it. We have Johan in Sweden. Not sure if I'm missing anyone, but I think I got everyone. I think I said Rob Rowe already. If not, Rob Rowe twice. But yeah, we started off the show with a bang. Having Brad's Brad on telling his stories is always excellent. So we had Brad, I was trying to work out an interview for today, was working on it all week, didn't work out. I asked Rob to come on. He was working. So I said, well, I think Brad said he was free tonight. So let's see what kind of interesting stories he can tell. And he didn't disappoint right off the bat. It was a walk-off home run. So
I would drop the mic if it wasn't connected to this stand here.
Upcoming, just so you guys know, for those of you that are patrons, you guys will be able to submit questions for Danko Jones, who I will be interviewing next week. And
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I tried to get him on the live stream, but he's not available in the afternoons. And next week for the live stream, we will have members of Edge of Paradise. So I've been featuring their videos recently these last few weeks because they're about to release their new album. So I spoke to their singer Margarita Monet a little earlier this week, and she said that I believe her and Dave, the guitarist, will be coming on next Friday. So look out for that. Steve, let's see.
Steve gets quote of the day, by the way. Actually, a couple of them.
And it's funny because he always says that he doesn't have the the best quotes, but
no. Steve's a funny guy.
Yes, he's got quite a few. It won't allow me to copy his quote over
You
again,
can't
but
fly that in.
yeah, I don't know. All right. Anyway,
All right.
you guys can see it on
We
the
need,
right there.
yeah, we need more Patreon supporters so we can up the tech stuff here.
Well, they are updating a bunch of things. I've been last week I spent 19 hours transcribing the previous show that we did over 3 days. And transcribing is the new thing for getting better search results, and I want to figure out an easy way to do this so that we can get more people to join us, and not only on Patreon but here. And the whole idea is just to get ranked better on Google when I do the various interviews, and have you on and have anyone else on. And when we did the Motley Crue discussion a few weeks ago, it did really good, because obviously when you're tagging Motley Crue and members of the band, well, you get their crowd to join in. I haven't gotten any hate mail or any trolls from it. Years ago, I did an episode on Van Halen, and Dan Lorenzo, currently in Catch is King and Vessel of Light, commented something to the extent of that Van Halen was too happy for him, and that had Van Halen have not existed, nothing, he wouldn't have missed them, or something to that extent. Holy crap, did the page fill up with just people dogpiling on the Rabbit, where they were just lambasting him on, his music and his taste. And boy, did the numbers of listeners and downloads go up for that episode. That's the highest rated episode I've ever had as a result. But it was interesting. Yeah, sometimes you just push some buttons, and you get people bent out of shape, and they feel the need to defend people who otherwise don't really care. So
yeah, that is funny, because I know my brother, the boss, the CEO Dave, he's like, yeah, if we got more controversial and said some like crazy stuff, we'd probably get, more people. And, like I don't know. And I'm like, dude, yeah, that's not our thing though. We're not here to just, rip people. And, I try to keep it positive. And I notice you do that in your interviews too. You're not like looking for the clickbait headline. You're not trying to get people to, talk bad about past members of the band or things like that. And I try to do that in my interviews too. It's like, hey, let's just keep that, let's just talk about positive stuff. Of course, if they bring up stuff, fine.
yeah,
But I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to try to get them to say bad things about people.
yeah.
But it does get people going, and it does light the fire. But I like that we have some integrity here between the two of us, and we're all about the positive, talking about bands we like. Every so often we talk about bands we don't like. But, I guess we did that last time, didn't we?
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's funny because I've had people over the years say that, you need to, all right. So Jose is saying that you're coming in lower than I am.
Well, I think it's just Connecticut. I think that's where the problem is.
Could be because your brother and both Jose are saying that you're coming in low.
Yeah, he said the same thing.
Yeah, maybe the I don't know, the state of Connecticut is monitoring you and filtering you out. You're a bad influence on how would you even, what are residents? Yeah, what are residents of Connecticut called? Connecticuters, or what is it?
They're nutmegs, right? Isn't it the nutmeg state?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so I've had discussions with people over the years where they're like, "Oh, why don't you ask, this question? Why don't you ask that person the other question?" I'm like, because I honestly don't want to close the door on certain people, because if you're a certain host, sure, you can get away with stuff. And I've heard interviews from, say, like a Jamie Josta or a Danko Jones or people like that who have a career outside of podcasting, where they're within the music industry making money and whatnot. So they can talk about certain behind the scenes things without people saying, yeah, go scratch, that's none of your business type of a deal, where it's more of, people see them as a peer. So they can ask certain questions that I can't ask as a result, and if you piss someone off, the next person they're going to is going to be their label or their PR person. And then what happens is, hey, I want to interview so-and-so on your label. And they're like, you pissed off this guy. Why would I be giving you this other person, So yes, could we do shock factor and do stuff like that? Of course. But, you're also susceptible to not being able to do what you want to do and being, left with just scraps, basically. If the people you want to speak to are not available to you, you end up just speaking to whoever is available. So,
yeah. Well, I don't know. There's something to be said for just not being an asshole. Okay. Speaking of which, I meant to show, because last time we were maybe going to talk about, one of the topics, bands that we didn't get into till later, or maybe didn't think they liked and then found out later, hey, I really like those guys. And one of those for me was this band. As I cleaned out my office at work, I found a whole bunch of papers that students had written. And I don't know why I still had copies of these things, but here's one. I don't know if you can read that.
Aha. Anthrax.
Yeah. Yep. Anthrax. Yeah, I'll give the author credit there. There she is. Yeah, so she did a nice presentation on Anthrax, not the band though.
Oh, okay.
On the Poison. Yeah, this is 2001. Holy crap, man. I had stuff in my office from 2001. That's just awful.
Well,
so this gone.
The height of the Anthrax craze there.
Yeah. That was pretty nutty stuff when that was going on. We had people that really thought that terrorists were coming to get them.
Right.
I remember this old guy. He was like 90 years old. Called me up in southern Utah, and he got something in the mail. He opened it up, and he felt like there was some powder in there, and he was like, "Sure, it was anthrax." And I said, "Yeah, that's pretty much what the terrorists are trying to do. They're trying to get rid of all their old people here." Sorry, dude.
Right.
Sorry, old people.
Yeah, well, it could have been someone messing with him, if he was a jerk to someone, maybe they did do it to mess with his head. Who knows? Maybe the end result was, hey, he'll think it's anthrax. He'll have a heart attack and drop dead.
Ooh, that'd be bad. Now, as we found out, there's a lot of things that go on in mail handling, and a lot of these guys, because they're constantly handling this stuff, that they use a lot of baby powder and that to keep from getting paper cuts and to keep things running smoothly. So, yeah, it's not anthrax. So,
I'll have to ask Joshua Toomey the next time that I have him on, because his day job is that he's a mailman. Cool. So maybe he can fill us in on why they use talcum powder or what other secrets.
How do they keep their hands soft and supple?
And maybe that's it. Maybe his mailman, maybe that's the opposite. Maybe it was the mailman saying, you know what? This curmudgeon old bastard has been messing with me for so long that I'm going to scare the shit out of him. And what he did was he talked up right over his, right over his piece of mail and said, all right, let's freak this old guy out. This is revenge for X amount of years of doing whatever. Maybe he wasn't, maybe his mailbox is on his porch and he's got a Rottweiler out in the yard that's, messing with the mailman. So I don't know. There's a few different angles there.
Yeah.
So you got into Anthrax later. For me, I would, for me, I would consider them probably one of my top 5 all-time bands. I got into them around 1987, 88, maybe. And I mentioned this during last week's episode because there was a whole connection with, it was Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper was going to walk Jake the Snake Roberts to the ring during WrestleMania 3, and he name dropped Anthrax and Megadeth. So my neighbor went out and got State of Euphoria by Anthrax and Peace Sells by Megadeth. And I dubbed it off of him and instantly became a fan. So it was, to me, it was something completely different than what I had heard before. What got you into them? Like, was there an album? Was there a song? What ultimately made the switch flip up for you?
That is a great question, which makes you such a great host. Okay. Believe it or not, it was worship music.
Okay.
Yeah, when that album came out, and part of why I didn't really like them that much in the first place was, when they first came out, their videos and that, the songs were just like, they're okay, but I got to be honest, Joey Belladonna, his voice really wasn't working for me. It was just too atonal for me. It didn't have the I don't know, it just didn't have substance. But for some reason, when I heard worship music, it worked for me on that. Mm-hmm. And I have a really good friend who lives in Texas, and he's a huge Anthrax fan. And so he was playing it for me. In fact, he gave me a copy of it. And I was like, man, these songs are really, really good. And the vocals are working for me. But I got to be honest then, as I went back, the John Bush stuff I liked even better because I really like John Bush. Okay? Right. I love his voice. He's got such a great rock voice. The guy, a great singer. I thought and I don't know who wrote all the lyrics in the band. I get the feeling Joey Belladonna is not the lyric writer. No.
It's Scott. Scott writes the majority of the lyrics. And then when John Bush came in, Scott would kind of give him a blueprint of what he thought this song should kind of be about. And they kind of like mix things together. John has a lyric book where he'll come up with ideas and he'll just write stuff like on the fly. He's constantly writing like different things, and he'll sometimes listen to a riff and then say, oh wow, this will go good with that. So it'll kind of be the foundation that he'll go with. Or he'll, Scott will say, hey, I was thinking about writing a song about this. And they kind of do it together type of deal. One of the reasons why he wouldn't come back to do worship music was because they wouldn't let him touch the lyrics. And he said that he felt that some of the lyrics were kind of goofy, that they didn't represent like something that he would sing. It's interesting that you mentioned that you felt that Joey's voice was different there because they tried so many different singers, or they wrote with John Bush in mind. Then they did some of the, they ended up doing some of the songs with Dan Nelson, who came in after him. And then there was Corey Taylor of Slipknot, who was going to work on the stuff. So, I don't know if there was ever anything exchanged back and forth between them. I do know this. I got to see them with Dan Nelson in concert. Mitch LaFon has several of the songs that Dan Nelson sung on, because Charlie personally sent them to him so he could check them out. And for a while there, when I would have Mitch on the show way back when, I tried to get him to turn, or to at least let me listen to those songs, over the phone even. I said, I just want to hear what they sound like. You don't have to give them to me. But I said, because the last Van Halen album, Different Kinds of Truth, that came out here like 9 hours before it came out in the US. And he was, he wanted to hear that so badly. I said, okay, I've got it. I'll let you listen to it if you let me listen to those Anthrax songs. And he was telling me, no, Charlie's a friend and I can't do this, because if he ever finds out, I'm like, I'm not going to tell Charlie, hey, Charlie Benante, Mitch LaFon let me listen to these 4 songs that you forwarded to him. I was like, come on, so I've never heard it outside of what I've seen him sing live. And the only thing that they did live that ended up on Worship Music was the cover of a Swedish band called Refused. There's a song of theirs called New Noise, which is all the way at the end of Worship Music. It's a hidden track. It's hidden in the last song, which Dan's voice fits the song a lot better, in my opinion, than Joey's voice, because when Joey tries to do like an aggressive part, his voice just doesn't do it right for me. I loved Joey's era in Anthrax, but the John Bush era, there's just the lyrics, the music, and the point in time in my life where, there are certain albums that I knew Johan would like that I brought up Refused. I purposely said Sweden because of that. There are albums that you can pinpoint and remember, I was listening to this when this went on, or this album helped me through this tough time, or whatever. We all have those albums that we pinpoint, and those Bush era albums helped me through a lot of crappy times, through like personal shitty stuff that was going on in my life. And a lot of times it was me cranking a lot of that music and listening to the lyrics and singing along to the lyrics to help me through that stuff. And I've said that to him when I've got to interview him. Also, the album Volume 8 is my favorite album by Anthrax. And I mentioned this as well, and he got a big kick out of it, that I would play the first 3 songs off of that, Crush, Catharsis, and Inside Out, over and over again when it first came out, for 2 reasons. 1, I loved it, and 2, my ex-wife hated hearing those 3 songs over and over again. So that was my kind of revenge for having to listen to country music all the time when we were in her car. So there's that. Okay, I'll give you a band that I didn't get into later as well. And I didn't get into this band up until probably 3 years ago. And the reason that I took me so long to get into them, I say that they're one of my midlife crisis bands, is because, being from New Jersey, of course, what are you going to hear on the radio? A lot of music from New Jersey. So there are certain bands that got played a lot, and Skid Row was one of them. I absolutely hated Skid Row because you would hear Youth Gone Wild, 18 in Life, I Remember You, every single day on the radio, over and over and over again, mixed in with Bruce Springsteen and Bon Jovi. And occasionally you would hear the Smithereens, and that's like the extent of New Jersey music that would be filtered into the terrestrial radio stations. A few years ago, while I was here, I was like, okay, everyone that I know likes this band. I'm the sore thumb here. I'm the only one that doesn't like Skid Row. Let me give it a shot. So I said, okay, I'm going to sit down with an open mind, and I'm going to listen to this. And I start listening to the first album. By the time I get to the last song, I realized that I knew the entire album already, due to the fact that Eddie Trunk would play them every Friday night, and he wouldn't play the radio hits. He would play the quote unquote deep tracks. So I knew Sweet Little Sister, and I knew Torpedo, and I knew all the other songs. And I have to say that the first 3 albums with Sebastian Bach, Rob Rowe just posted it. I really enjoy the first 3 albums. There are some songs with Johnny Salinger that I like as well. But those 3 albums are great. I think Subhuman Race doesn't get enough credit just because of when it came out and because of fans being fickle idiots that nothing after 89 is good anymore. Right. But Skid Row's first album came out in, I believe, 90 or 91, and their second album came out in the first one came out in, maybe it was 89, then the second one 91, and then the third one was 95. So a lot of times it's the fans' fault for not hanging in with a band or giving them enough time to check out other material outside of the hits. Imagine if somebody came up to CEO Dave and said, "I'm a huge Black Sabbath fan. I love Paranoid, Iron Man, and War Pigs." And you say, "Well, do you love Supernaut? Do you love Hole in the Sky? Do you love National Acrobat? What songs are those?"
Oh,
I thought you were a huge fan. So there are a lot of people, "Oh, I love Skid Row. They're one of my favorite bands." Why didn't they release anything after their second album? Yeah, they've released 3 other albums and 2 EPs, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times it's not that the bands suck, it's that the fans suck and give up and stop following. And I forget who someone mentioned. Oh, okay. So someone posted a new Billy Idol song, which I'm going to be posting in Patreon. And one of the comments was, "Oh my God, I'm so glad he got Steve Stevens back." And I responded, I'm like, Steve Stevens came back in 94. He's released 4 albums since then. It isn't that Steve Stevens came back, it's that you've finally come back. It's just kind of asinine. So Mike Jones here saying Skid Row is definitely a band whose deep tracks are better than their radio hits. Yeah. 100%. My Skid Row playlist does not have their radio hits because I like the other tracks better. And after I listened to those albums openly, I will say that I almost exclusively listened to them for 2 or 3 months because I thoroughly enjoyed it. So Mike Jones, I agree with you 100%. Rob Rowe is saying that Mud Kicker is one of his favorites. Cool track as well. Again, Mud Kicker and Sweet Little Sister. Eddie Trunk would play those songs all the damn time. So what's another band that you got into later?
Yeah, I'm writing down Mud Kicker because I gotta check that out. Yeah, okay. Well, real quick about the Skid Row though. Yeah, again, when they first came out, and it's just the tone of Sebastian's voice was just I don't know, man. I mean, it's nothing against his singing. I mean, the guy's a great singer, at least on record.
Shitty person, great singer.
Yeah. Which, by the way, you do an awesome impression of him. Yeah, and that was I don't know, that was part of my struggle, and the songs were just kind of but I'd heard several interviews with Dave Snake Sabo, and man, he seems like such a cool dude. Right. And I was like, I need to give these guys another chance. I need to dig into it a little bit more. And I got to say, those EPs, the last few things that they released, I really like that stuff a lot. Right. I really like where it is musically in that. Now, I've seen Sebastian Bach solo, let's see, a few years ago at M3. And I got to say, he was actually really good. I mean, his singing was totally on. He was very entertaining. And I was like, wow, this is really good. But the songs, the hit songs and the ones I knew are just kind of like, and those are usually the ones when, people are playing songs you don't know that you're like, oh, okay. but
Right.
the songs weren't really grabbing me. So then I saw the next year at M3, Skid Row played, and I can't remember who the singer is now, or the singer that sang with them then. It was, I think it's their current singer. I mean, he was good and everything, but again, the songs were just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah,
It,
I have to see what they record with him. ZP something. I forget.
that guy.
Yeah,
He's a good singer.
he was the singer in Dragon Force.
Oh, okay.
The only time that I've seen Dragon Force live, and the one time I saw them live, they weren't live. So
Ooh,
we walked, we
wow.
we saw that what they were playing, and not a lot of people were up front when they came up and they played. So we're like, all right, well, let's walk up and see. We're watching them, and I was with a friend who's a guitarist who has a band that had some notoriety here locally, and I turn to him and I say, I don't think they're playing. And he says, well, what do you mean? I go, look at where they're on the neck and listen to the notes that are coming out. And he starts analyzing, like really looking at the guitar's fingers. He goes, holy shit, I think you're right. So the first song finishes, and they're still there. It ends like with one whole note. You hear the note, and then like a second later, they all hit that note. It's like, wait a second, you guys aren't playing. So we saw a little more, and we walked away, and it was like they're selling these guys. Oh, they're the most proficient guitarists, and they're this and they're that. And then there's the whole video with Herman Lee playing underwater at the Monsters of Rock cruise, and they show like this whole thing. Oh, well, he's got the he's got the damn it, now I don't even remember. The wireless system is taped to the back of the guitar, and it's sealed, and it's this and it's that. And I'm thinking, pickups will not work underwater, first of all, because magnets will not work underwater. Second of all, it's physically impossible with the strings to generate enough force to make it come out through the pickups. I'm like, he's not playing, and what sounds were like coming out weren't exactly notes. Once he was like somewhat out of the water, so he was strumming and he was making some sort of a noise, but it wasn't as if, oh my God, look, he's playing like Yngwie all of a sudden, so it's like that whole band, after seeing those two things, is a complete shit show to me. I don't understand their notoriety. I've seen video of ZP singing with Skid Row, and I know they have him there because he's not a head case basically, and he doesn't drink, and he does what they ask him to do. But the videos that I've seen, it's like having Bruce Dickinson singing with Skid Row, and I don't know, it just felt kind of off to me personally. But
yeah,
go ahead.
I get that. That. So I don't get not actually playing though. That makes no sense to me. But whatever. Wow, that's crazy.
Studio magic. So many bands that we play 280 beats per minute in the studio, sure, with a computer and with speeding the stuff up. But then when you play live, you're not playing live. You're playing. A computer's playing the tracks, and you're just kind of milli vanillying it. So
yeah, no, that ain't cool. All right, so another band that I was late to the party is Accept.
Okay.
And again, it was the singer that kept me from really getting into it, because I mean, first thing I heard was Balls to the Wall because of the video.
Right.
And I was like, oh, the song's great, but this guy's voice is what the hell? And so what happened for me is, years ago, I went to this music festival, South Texas Music Festival, and Saxon was headlining. That's why I went. Udo was playing right before them. They were actually on touring the U.S. together, doing club dates, and then they're playing this big festival. And I gotta tell you, man, when Udo came out, number one, his band was awesome. Okay,
Right.
but when he came out, it was like he had I don't know, he just had this aura, this weird kind of like, I was like, okay, I'm totally in on this guy. And the fact that he can sing like that and do an hour and a half show actually singing, and he's a good singer. I mean, he hits the notes.
Right.
And anyway, I was like, okay, I'm 100% in on these guys. And then I went, of course, bought every album, and huge fan now, huge fan of his solo stuff, just because the music rocks. And I mean, it's yeah, their riffs are just unbelievable. And so I became a huge Accept fan, but it took many, many, many years for me to get into it. And I love the whole thing. Saw Accept this last year, well, just a few months ago at M3 with Mark Tornillo. We'll go with that. Final answer. Who's also from New Jersey. See, everything goes back to Jersey. And the funny thing was, Shelly, my wife, whenever we're in the car and an Accept song comes on, something with Udo, or an Udo song comes on, she'll put up with it, but she's not, and it's mostly because of his voice. She didn't, and I said, I get it. So when Accept came on at M3, she's like, I'm going to go for a walk. So she did. She went for a walk, and then she came back a few songs later, and she says, "You know what? I really like this. This is really, really good." And I said, I know. It's like something magic happens when you actually see these songs being played well live.
Right.
And I got to say, Mark live did a fantastic job with the old Accept songs. But I got to also say that it was incredible that they played a lot of songs off the new album,
Mhm.
and even songs off of their other Mark albums. Um, so yeah, so I don't know. It's I love everything about all layers of what these guys are doing. And then of course I got to meet Udo. I interviewed his son Sven, who his son was just so dang cool.
Yeah.
And you can find that on Yarg Metal YouTube
There you go.
channel. You can watch the interview with me. Well, you can listen to it anyway. And those guys couldn't have been cooler to me. And it was one of those things, you probably had this, Victor, where you're like, oh crap. And I found out like 2 hours before I was going to interview them that I was going to interview them. I was actually down in Arizona at a CE meeting, a toxicology CE thing, trying to get my credits so I could keep my license. And I'm sitting there, and they're talking about medical marijuana, and all of a sudden I get this text on my phone. Hey, if you can meet the band in 1 hour, we can do an interview. Oh my gosh. So immediately I get out a pad of paper, and I'm writing down like, okay, what am I going to talk to him about? I start writing down all these questions. And I get to the club, and I'm in the back in the green room of the club, and these guys come in, and my questions, I was kind of walking around the room, kind of just, filling the place out. But I left my questions way over on the other side of the room, and where they wanted to sit, we sat way over here. And so I didn't have any of my questions. And to this date, it was like one of the most fun, just interesting interviews. And I just felt like we were just talking.
Right.
And it was just very, very cool. And these guys, like I said, they couldn't not have been cooler to me. And yeah, so there you go. So for everything, the music and everything else, Udo, he's always got a place in my heart. So there you go.
Yeah, I've gotten to interview him once, and his son wasn't in the band yet. But when he called me on Skype, it was under his son's name. So it was funny because I forget what label he was with at the time. It may be the same label he's on now, but they said, oh, the name that's going to pop up is Sven something else. And I was like, oh, okay. And then when it came up as Sven Dirk Snyder. And I was like, oh, and a year later when he becomes the drummer, I'm like, wow. So theoretically, his old man was calling through his son's account. It's funny because once the bigger someone is, because Johan is mentioning how big Sweden or how big except was in Sweden and all over Europe, to be honest, back in the 80s. The bigger an artist, a lot of times, the nicer they are, and you're able to just have like a normal conversation with them. And they almost prefer that stuff as to the, so how's the album going? How's the tour going? It's like the last time that I spoke to Drew Fortier, I asked him, what did I ask him? So what's the feedback been with your I forget if it was his book or the movie he had released. And I said to him, I said, scratch that. I go, I always harp on people that ask those types of dog shit questions. I go, there's nobody that's going to come up to you and say, your book is absolute shit, but I want you to sign it for me. It's always going to be, people are going to come up to you and give you, they're going to give you positive reviews. They're not going to come up to you to say, yeah, that's garbage, but I want your autograph anyway. They won't say it to your face. They may say it behind the scenes, but not to you, So, yeah. Udo is funny because, like you said, balls to the wall. Balls to the walls I knew. But I remember, my thing when I would come over to Spain when I was in middle school and more so high school, maybe, I would come back and I would bring albums for my friends, stuff that they couldn't get here. And I remember there was a compilation it started off with Fast as a Shark. Fast as a Shark or Reckless and Wild. I forget which of the two. And once I heard those songs, I was like, oh my God. I'm like, this is what I've heard, everything that I've heard about them, like the myth. But, I couldn't get past Balls to the Walls and any other song that I heard. Like, it didn't captivate me like those two songs. Those songs were fast and just the guitar parts and the double bass and stuff like that. And all of a sudden it clicked. I understood. So, for me, a band that I got into later, and I was talking to Steve Hoker about this earlier this week, and I mentioned this. It came up because when I interviewed Rock last week, he talked about seeing Metallica with less than 1,000 people in, I believe it was in Quebec City. He mentioned, it was Victoriaville up in the province of Quebec in Canada. And Steve brought up the fact that both you and Rock had seen Metallica early on without having huge crowds in front of them. And I have to admit that the first thing that I ever heard from Metallica was Fade to Black, but I didn't know it was Metallica because I was under this preconceived notion that with the dumbness of being kids. I've mentioned this a bunch of times. Growing up, you were either a Metallica and a Slayer fan, or you were an Anthrax and Megadeth fan. So I had no idea that I had Fade to Black for years because I had recorded it off of a local metal show, a show that Eddie Trunk appeared on. This was before he hosted it. He was the host was called Cheryl Richards, and she called him the Dunkin' Donuts boy, and because there was a Dunkin' Donuts down the street from the radio station, and she would say, "Oh, the Dunkin' Donuts boy has come in to do the metal news at midnight." Little did she know that the Dunkin' Donuts boy was going to blow up a lot bigger than her in many ways, and she would be taking his job or her job in no time. But anyway, they she played Fade to Black. I had no idea it was Fade to Black, and I would hear, I remember hearing the song Harvester of Sorrow off of Injustice for All coming out. And I was like, this is kind of cool. I can kind of get into this. But then I heard one, And then the video for One came out, and it was constantly on MTV. And I've never liked the song One. Not only because it just never caught my attention, but it was rammed down my throat continuously. I've seen them play it live and enjoyed it live because you're in the moment and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a song that I hey, I want to listen to Metallica. Oh, I'm going to listen to One. No, that's usually not what happens. So fast forward to the Black Album, which just celebrated its 30th anniversary. I remember coming back from Spain and having friends of the Metal Dentist and myself, who we were in a band with, and our late guitarist said, "You'll never guess this, but you have to listen to the new Metallica song." And I said, "Why? Why would I want to do that? It's not what you expect." And lo and behold, later on that day, I heard Enter Sandman for the first time. And I was like, oh, okay, I can get into this. And what ended up happening was the album came out. And he said to me, okay, I'm going to record 2 songs for you. And after hearing those 2 songs, you tell me if you like Metallica or not. And he recorded Of Wolf and Man, and he recorded Through the Never for me. And I would play those songs constantly over and over and over again. And I was like, okay, I'm sold. And I remember him telling me, from now on, never listen to what anybody tells you what you should like and what you shouldn't like. Listen to music with an open mind. And from that day forward, I was a fan of Metallica. But it wasn't until the Black Album. Then I went back and I became a huge fan of theirs, to the point where when I moved to Spain, my wife was a huge Doors fan. And I've never gotten into the Doors. I can stomach them now if she wants to listen to them. But it's, again, something that, because I heard it so much on the radio growing up, I just never have had an affinity for them. We were having a discussion not that long ago, because I've been telling my kids that that we're going to do a podcast together. And I was telling my wife, well, you're going to be involved as well. We're going to talk about different music that we listen to. And I said, what's your favorite band? And she says, now? And I said, yeah, it's the Doors, right? She goes, no, the Doors probably wouldn't be in my top 10 right now. I'm like, oh, okay. So who's your favorite band? She goes, oh, without a doubt, Metallica. I'm like, whoa. So that's something that, I brought into her life, among other things, that, now that's her favorite band. So there you go.
That's cool, man. That's cool. I see you guys are talking about a new Dream Theater song coming out.
Yes, The Alien. I'm going to post that as well. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I want to hear it. It's kind of interesting. I mean, Dream Theater is one of those bands that I like, but I can only listen to so much, because it kind of gets a little samey for me. That's why I like it on Yarg Metal, because you get a Dream Theater song, and then you get something else. Okay, right. And I like, but to sit down and listen to a whole Dream Theater album, which I've done many times back in the CD, back in those days when we had buy any albums. But I find it interesting that they're leading off with something that's really heavy as the first song off the album, which that's cool. I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, there was talk that this album was going to be a lot heavier than some of their last few albums. Dream Theater is Jerry from Long Island's favorite band.
Really?
Yeah, he's mentioned that to me several times. I didn't get a chance to listen to the entire thing because I listened to like the first 3 minutes. It's a 9-minute song. And I said, okay, since I'm going to be posting this on Patreon, I'll listen to it when I post it. But when Black Clouds and Silver Linings came out, which I believe is the last album with Mike Portnoy, I really love that album, and I listened to it quite a bit. But I told you a story earlier this week about having a pet that was poisoned, and it was a whole unpleasant experience. The last, again, snapshots in your life. The last album that I listened to that day before all these shenanigans went down was that album by Dream Theater. So for some reason, I can't listen to it all the way through now, and I guess it's just like a subliminal thing where it conjures up memories of a of a situation that wasn't all too happy. So there you go.
I get that. I totally get that. Well, in along with the thread of my not liking bands, I got to say James LaBrie. I mean, his voice is all right when he's really rocking, but when he gets into the vibrato and really soft stuff, it's like, oh, geez.
Yeah, he's definitely for me the weakest link of that band.
Yeah, and I've seen him live more than a few times, I guess, and they're really good. But he kind of sometimes doesn't seem like he just comes out and sings and then he walks away.
Right.
Which it's they're just the whole band vibe is just kind of weird. So yeah, but yeah, I think they're a great. When I saw them open up for Maiden when they were doing that tour, that was like the perfect amount of Dream Theater for me. I mean, it was like that was great. I loved the whole thing. I loved every minute of it. It was fantastic. But when I've seen him do a headlining show, it's kind of yeah. And nobody wants that, man. You don't want to be looking at, hoping, is this their last song, please?
Right. Well,
you don't want that.
They have a diehard following, I'll say that.
Oh yeah.
And okay, so I saw them in 2009, June 19th, right before my son was born. Wow. Surprised that I was even able to manage that one. But see if I can look at the poster here. It won't open for me. Yeah, that was with Dragon Force. So that was night number 1 was, I can't even read this. All right, Crucified Barbara, Gojira, Devil Driver, Hot Leg, which I don't remember, Cathedral, Suicidal Tendencies, who wasn't the headliner but closed the night out. Cradle of Filth, which was interesting, seeing a black metal band at like 1 p.m. Trivium, Machine Head, who was great that night, and then Journey and Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson capped it off by the worst performance I've ever seen live. The next day was Lauren Harris, Steve Harris from Iron Maiden's daughter.
Yeah.
God Forbid, Hatebreed, Dragon Force. That was that Dragon Force performance. Buck Cherry, where Josh Todd from the stage says, Mexico, are you ready to listen to Crazy Bitch? I'm like, you flew at least 12 hours to get here. You flew across a damn ocean to get here. And you don't know that Mexico's in South America, not Europe, you asshole.
That's a pretty bad mistake.
Papa Roach, who we listened to from our tents, Anthrax, that was, I believe, that Dan Nelson performance. We were supposed to get Thin Lizzy with John Sykes on lead vocals, but they canceled the last minute, and we got Lizzie Borden instead. How
was Lizzie Borden?
It was all right. It was what I would expect. Him with, the Kid Rock cut out American flag as a shirt, and a bunch of, bikini clad babes with, with vinyl and American flags all over the place. So yeah. In Flames, who had their keyboards lost by the airline company, so they couldn't play any songs with keyboards. Is what the lead singer said, and it was funny. It was kind of chilly, and I mentioned this to Johan one night when we spoke. He says, "We're in Spain. Why is it so cold here? You know, it's colder here than it is in Sweden right now. We just left Sweden and it was, I don't know how hot, and I'm freezing my ass off on stage." He was saying, I guess he didn't realize that here in the north of Spain, the humidity will do that shit to you. And then we were capped off by Motley Crue getting booed off a stage for only doing a 90-minute headlining set with a 20 minutes out of that of Tommy Lee trying to get a blonde to take her top off. So 90 minutes minus 20 is 70. They played about an hour for a headlining set. So people were none pleased about that.
Yeah, play the music for hell's sake.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it was funny because Hatebreed closed everything up, and I guess they had been there the night before. And Jamie Josta says, only in Europe could you have us and Journey on the same festival bill. And he goes, that's what's kind of cool about the whole thing, that you can see us, a hardcore metal band, and you can see Journey and, you know, Motley Crue and Dream Theater and all these bands. It's different types of music, where it doesn't have to be just one type of hard rock or metal like it's done in the US. As cool as M3 is, I think that's one of the limiting things. It's just that they focus on one era, one type of band, and I get that, you know, because that's the clientele. But I think that there are other bands within that era that, you know, they could also incorporate, but, you know, whatever. People are fickle and people are stupid. So I don't think it's the promoter's fault. I think it's the fans' fault that will start with, oh, that's not real metal, man. So.
Well, yeah. And I got to say this because I've been to M3 3 times now, and I love it. Just because there is a slight amount of variety there, because they're all kind of 80s bands, but that's when they, you know, made their coin, but they're not all the same. And the cool thing is, for me, they bring in these bands that are kind of like had a moment and have dropped off the map and somehow have gotten back together. Like, okay, so the one we just saw a couple months ago, they had Hurricane on the bill. So I'm like, what the hell? You know, is what's his name? Is he gonna what's his name? Keith Kelly Hansen. I was like, guys, is Kelly Hansen, is he gonna go off and like do Hurricane? You know, because obviously he's not out there playing.
You know, it's funny, but think of that whole band. Sorry, I'm cutting you off.
No, you're cool.
Kelly Hansen, Doug Aldrich, who's now in Dead Daisies, their drummer Jay Shellen, yeah, I believe he's playing in like some other band that has like nothing.
He's playing in Yes.
Yes, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. Plus he's a big guy in Vegas, and so anyway, I was like, who is this going to be? I mean, I can't believe that Kelly would you know, like turn his back on Foreigner. I know Foreigner's not doing anything, but I was like, I was kind of hoping it was going to be Kelly Hansen. So I'm like, who are these guys? Well, it turns out it's Sarzo, you know, the original guitar player and bass player from the original band. Yeah. Sarzo,
Robert Sarzo and Tony Cavazzo, the other brothers of the Quiet Riot guys.
Right. So somehow those guys got permission to use the name of the band. Kelly's probably like, yeah, I'll throw you a bone. And because those guys only did that, well, the EP and the first 2 albums, I guess. And then they were out of the band. I don't know why. I don't know what happened there. That'd be a good story. And they weren't bad. They played really well, but they looked like guys that, it was their first time on stage. They kind of just stood there, and I mean, there was like no charisma, no karma. I mean, nothing happening. And the singer was really good, but he also, I mean, he was actually really, really good, but he had no idea what he was doing on stage. He just kind of deer in the headlights, and sang his ass off, but it was just kind of like, yeah, you guys should have rehearsed a little bit. I'm just saying, played together. I don't know, but I guess they actually have the new Hurricane has an album coming out this year, so we'll see if that happens and if that's any good, and if they get on Mars Attacks Patreon with a video, that'd be cool.
Who was the singer for that?
Oh, I can't remember his name. He's some kid. I don't know that he's been in any other band. And good night, Johan, and sleep well.
Johan is in my time zone. It's a little after 1 a.m. So thank you for joining us tonight, Johan. I know that it's difficult to be up at this time for a lot of folks, so I do appreciate you spending time with us here.
Yeah,
glad I was able to shout out at least 2 Swedish bands.
There you go. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of got off off the track there talking about M3, but anyway, they do mix things up, and then they and some of the things are really cool, and some of them aren't that cool. But that also brings me to a band that I didn't really thought I would like, but I actually did like, and that's Night Ranger, believe it or not. Because when you think of Night Ranger, you think of, oh, geez, Sister Christian, and oh, please, kill me now. In fact, my wife, who was with me, Shelly, she's like, can we leave before they play Sister Christian? Can we just leave? And I was like, yeah, sure, we can leave.
Oh, cool. Wow.
And after the first couple of songs, she turned to me, she said, "Guy, these guys rock. I had no idea these guys rocked." And I said, "Yeah, I know. Who knew? Who knew Night Ranger rocked so hard?" But they do, and plus they're really good live. I mean, actually playing their instruments. I mean, Kelly Keagy, as goofy as he looks on stage, the dude actually plays drums really well. I mean, you kind of want to hate him. It's like, nah, he looks like a dork, but he plays the drums really well. But the rest of them, I mean, very professional, having fun, which I'm a big fan of that. That kind of goes back to Udo too, man. When you see these guys live, I mean, they're playing serious metal, but they're all smiling and they're all like interacting with each other and they're all having fun. It's like, the Hurricane Boys could have used a little bit of that rather than looking at each other going, what do we do now?
Right.
Yeah. You stay over there. I'll stay over here. Okay. That's what we're going to do. We'll keep playing this song. Yeah. So there you go. Night Ranger. And I know supposedly they're not real big in Europe. Is that true? Or is it just the UK? I think it was Jeremy that was telling me that they don't get much press over there and much play or anything.
Mike Jones is saying they can still rock in America after all. Yes.
And I got to tell you, man, that song kicked ass. 4th of July and everything, still rocking America. It was like, yeah, and it's good to be an American for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, they had a moment there before Sister Christian and all that, where you can still rock in America. Don't tell me you love me.
Yep.
Those songs, and obviously Brad Gillis playing with Ozzy. You think about it, they were kind of their names were thrown in the mix with the Maiden tandem and the Priest tandem and Scorpions and stuff like that. They were in that mix. And then, Sister Christian came out, and I forget what the other song was off of that album, and it was kind of ballady as well. And it was okay. Well, credibility gone. as good as your playing was. You look at Scorpions and you take a ballad like Still Loving You. And yes, that's a ballad, but just the way that the solos are constructed, the way that that song is constructed in general, it doesn't have a, hey, this is a ballad, I want to be on the radio type vibe, where those other Night Ranger songs had that. And of course, it was a product of what was going on at the time. So I get it. But when you had a Maiden or Judas Priest, it was hard to compete and keep your name in with those guys. You had Queensryche come along and kind of, all right, Night Ranger guys off to the side. Queensryche is slotting in here where you guys used to be. So
yeah. Well, anyway, we did stay to the end of their set. And so Shelley did have to listen to Sister Christian. I said, you just have to experience it, because it's kind of like everybody gets like brainwashed for a moment. Everybody's singing along like insane. I mean, the place just goes ape shit. All right. I mean, it's like this is really incredible. It's kind of like being at some kind of religious revival where everybody gets the ghost at the same time.
Right.
And yeah. So I was like, yeah, you got to give it to them, but yeah. Anyway, I got to respond to something. Is that Steve up there with the M3s lineup?
Yeah.
Steve, of course it's Steve. Hey, Steve. Okay, I'm going to throw down the gauntlet, man. You should come down, hang out with us at M3 next year, because Shelley says she's in. She went in there not preparing to really like it. She's kind of like, well, can I just like take off and if I'm not really digging stuff and go back to the hotel and that? And I'm like, oh, sure, you can leave anytime. She stayed through the whole damn thing, and the end is like, yeah, I want to go back next year. So 3 days and a lot of rock. It's very comfy for the old guys. Seats are nice. I got a line on the front row, so I can hook you up, Steve. And yeah, come hang out with us, man. Come rock out with us. And then if the band sucks, we can just make fun of them together. It would be great. You will have fun. Okay, I'll take care of you, man. You get down there, I'll take care of you.
I'm sure Steve will have a hard time making fun of bands.
Yeah, that's part of the charm too, and it's fun hanging out with people who have a kind of an equal bit of wit about them.
I'm trying to look at my list here to see what other.
Mike. Yeah, Mike, come hang out with us, okay? I'm saving you a seat, man. I'm putting you in the front row of this. Come on, Mike. Yeah, come on, Rob. Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right, Victor. You
gonna have a whole Yarg Metal section.
No, yeah, Yarg Metal Mars Attacks section. Come on. And if Striegel shows up, if he doesn't have some prior family commitment or something, then the boys are back in town. I'm just saying. The guy would have blasted me. We get like a whole row of us and just pure shenanigans. It'd be way cool. So
Mike Jones is claiming that he is closer. Mike Jones is what, like an hour and a half closer than Steve Hoker is to M3. Mike is in South Jersey. Steve is in North Jersey. So,
yeah, you guys could drive there. I mean, I guess I could too, but it'd take a couple of days. I don't know.
You could always pick up an RV in Mount Olive, drive down.
Yeah, that ain't happening. Our RV days are over. Over. That's another. It's another one of those magical moments when you realize you married the right person. When they look over at you and they say, "This is really stupid. This sucks, man. I never want to own an RV." And for years she'd been pushing me to like borrow one of our neighbors' RVs and go on a trip, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. And yeah, so it's like, yeah, we're on the same team, loving it. So yeah, so hanging out. Yeah, there you go. All right, come on, Steve, let's party. I want to go. I want to hang out with everybody. We got to have like a Mars Attacks get together. I guess we're gonna have to come to Spain though, right, Victor? Because you're not allowed in the U.S.
Oh, I'm allowed in the U.S. I know,
I'm kidding. I always make the joke that I'm not allowed to leave Utah, but
well, I know
that's not true.
I was going to say I know that firsthand that it's not true, but
All right, yeah, 4 miles a gallon. Yeah, when Shelley finally totaled up the gas bill from driving that RV from New Jersey to Utah, and it was over $1,000.
Wow.
Gas. That was for gas. And I said, yeah, we could have flown first class both ways, rented a car, seen everything we wanted to be, stay in really nice hotels, and it would have cost less money than just the gas.
Well, but could you say that you picked up an RV in a town that had at one time the number one spot where the mob would dump or where the mob would gift people cement shoes and cement overcoats, because Mount Olive, Bud Lake right there
Bud
in
Lake.
Mount Olive was notoriously known for that.
I expected Bud Lake to be filled with Budweiser, but it wasn't.
Well, it was brown, like the color of the bottle. I mean,
There
that's
you go.
that
There's probably a few guys named Bud in the lake. Yeah.
that could be it too. There are a few lakes in North Jersey that are known for that stuff. So,
No.
I'm trying to see here. I'm trying to go through my playlist here to see what bands are kind of fit into that Metallica Skid Row mold. I mean,
Okay.
I could say Slaughter, but I don't enjoy Slaughter like I do the other bands. I started to get into them and being able to stomach their music around the same time as Skid Row, but to me Skid Row blows them away. And that also kind of has to do with the fact that as a stupid music fan, I was on the whole these guys left Vinnie Vincent behind, so screw those guys. And then you realize that, well, all the stories about Vinnie are true after he screws over someone that you personally know. And you're like, all right, well, screw that guy. I'm going to finally listen to this band with an open mind. So that's kind of what happened there.
There you go. Yeah, I got to say, I don't own any Slaughter albums. I do own Mark's solo disc that he came out with a few years ago. It was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I think the songs are really good and his singing's really good. Yeah, live, his singing, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. And yeah, Shelley was about after 10 minutes. I've had enough of these guys. She said, is all he going to do, is he going to actually sing at one point, or is he just going to scream? And I said, well, you got to admit the guy can scream, but
yeah,
she said, yeah, but shouldn't he sing a little bit in there too?
You know how he's made the majority of his money though, right?
No, tell me.
Voiceover acting.
Oh, wow. Good job. Well
he
done.
does like in the 90s when when Mel Blanc died, who used to do all of the Warner Brothers cartoons. Warner Brothers tried to like relaunch and do like different types of like Bugs Bunny cartoons, like updated things. They had Animaniacs, and they had I'm trying to think if they had like a baby like Looney Tunes thing, or they tried a bunch of different things. So he's done a ton of work with Warner Brothers from the 90s onwards with different animated projects where he lends a lot of the voices to the stuff. So he's made all of his money through voiceover work. I mean, he technically doesn't need to tour, doesn't need to, he can just scream all day because he's not. Yeah. So I think he was Plucky Duck on Animaniacs. That could be on the All Systems Go album by Vinnie Vincent. There's somebody at the end of the song Let Freedom Rock, which is probably him, that it sounds more like a Donald Duck. And he says, very good, boys. Very good, boys. Something like that. And I think that's him. So, yeah. Cool. So he can scream it. If not, he can just do a Vince Neil and have Jeff Blando sing anyway.
Yeah. Boy, that guy is something. He can really play and sing. Yeah.
Right.
He can do a Vince Neil.
Well,
all right. Well,
I think any of us can do a Vince Neil. Can't you?
Ooh. Yeah.
Right there. I just sung 3 lines in Wild Side.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Any final thoughts before we wrap things up here?
No, yeah, I do have final thoughts. I think this is like the coolest group of people on the planet that hang out with you, Victor, and I feel blessed and just happy to be with you guys. And thank you for letting me hang out today with you. I feel bad your guest backed out, but anytime, man, I'm here for you. That I'm not working. And yeah, all you guys, well, we got to hang out. We got to figure out some way to get Victor over here so we can all hang out together.
Well, hopefully next year the planets will align, and hopefully we'll spend some time in the States. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll come to you. Yeah, you go East Coast, or if you go to West Coast, wherever you go, I'll come there. And of course, you guys, and I'll open this up to everybody in this group. Anybody in Utah, you got a place to stay. We'll feed you. We'll take care of you. And you're always welcome here at Casa de Schneegel.
Look at that. Steve Hoker is doling out the free pizza. What pizza establishment are we talking about? Because there are plenty, and there's the host of accommodations at Chateau Dahl there, Molly, the metal dog, who will make sure you enjoy every last moment of your stay.
That is correct. She will thoroughly inspect your luggage.
There you go. I'm only allowed in 48 of the 50 states. Right.
All right. Let's party, guys.
Hey, it could happen. Let's see if we could even get Mr. Striegel involved. Who knows?
How long before you'd have to go somewhere, though? I love Mark, by the way. I do. He's a busy man.
He is a very busy man. Absolutely is. So
I got time to hang, man. I'm in for the big hang.
There you go. The chat has been great tonight. They've been throwing comments out left and right. All of the diehards have been here. Yes, Steve. Oh, Snap is right. But anyway, I do want to thank all you guys for joining me tonight. I always say this. I really appreciate you guys deciding to spend a little bit of your Fridays with me here. Brad, it is never a chore to have you on. It is never a bad time to have you on. So I knew that it was a possibility that you could be on. So I never fret. If my A plan doesn't work, there's always a B plan, the Brad plan.
There you go. B stands for Brad.
B stands
I'm okay
for
being
Brad.
Plan B. Is that
There
the morning after pill? I think so.
Is that legal in Utah?
Having sex isn't legal in Utah. What are you talking about? Utah's not as weird ass as you guys would think. Especially after going through a lot of the United States. So I'm like, Utah's really not as weird as people think it is compared to some other places. But anyway, yeah. Okay. Cheers, everybody.
So wait. Let's wrap things up kind of how we started them. Because I have my doubts whether or not bleaching someone's anus is legal in Utah.
I always love it when people call me up and they think I'm going to report them. It's like, or like I'm going to take their kids away. It's like, look, lady, I don't want your kid. Okay. I want you to keep your kid. I want you to raise your kid. Actually, spend a little time with them. Throw that out there.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because I'm sure that she didn't have a post-it written, on it saying, please drink, Bobby, please drink this.
Well, that let's just say you get your kid there watching you, putting stuff in your butthole. Okay. It's like, yeah, watch mommy. See what mommy's doing here? Yeah.
Hold on, stand back. I'm just going to splash some of this on now.
Yeah, maybe the kid drank it on purpose. Maybe the kid's like, I can't deal with my mom. I just can't deal with my mom showing me her butthole. I'm going to drink this bleach.
Could be. So, anyway.
We've covered...
Yes, we've covered enough. Anyway, thanks, you guys. You guys have been great tonight. This last 90 minutes has flown by as if it was 90 seconds, and that's thanks to all of you guys. Thanks, and we'll be here again next week with Edge of Paradise. So that is it. We will see you next time right here on the Signals from Mars live stream, brought to you by the Mars Attacks podcast and VMR IT. See ya.